Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. I'm Tom Keene, along with Paul Sweeney. Join us each day for insight from the best in economics, finance, investment, and international relations. You can also watch the show live on YouTube. Visit the Bloomberg Podcast channel on YouTube to see the show weekday mornings from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern from our global headquarters in New York City. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen, and always on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Terminal, and the Bloomberg Business app. Ed Heyman joins us now, Chairman, Evercore ISI, and of course out with a must-read note. And it's almost comfort to me, Ed Heyman, to see your note and just observe that, the basic idea. You start like Alan Greenspan with trucking. Explain why at Evercore ISI, where everybody hangs on every chart and every paragraph, why does Ed Heyman start with a trucking survey?
Because it's the most important thing to start with. So we survey about 40 different industries. And you might ask yourself, which one correlates with the economy most? And the answer is trucking. The surveys overall, trucking, retail, autos, etc., overall beat trucking by itself, but trucking has the most.
Right.
And so, and that survey also has hooked down. I'm looking for message, signal.
Well, can you signal now the certitude of a recession or the when of NBER recession?
No. Yeah, I've been on the recession kick too long. So I'm trying to
wean yourself off of that, right?
not wean myself off it. I'm just trying to, my job is to help our clients. And this has not been helpful. Now, at this point, the logic that monetary tightening a la Milton Friedman would make inflation go away has worked. And the yield curve being inverted should slow the economy. And we're getting some evidence of slowdown. Mm-hmm. And so I should relax a little bit.
Okay. So what do you think, we're going to hear from the Fed in a couple of weeks. We're going to get some economic data today with jobs and tomorrow with the labor report. How do you think the U.S. economy is performing these days?
It's okay, a little spotty.
Okay.
Some places are just booming, not doing well, not holding up, not resilient. And some places are softer.
Right.
Like our trucking survey's gotten a little bit weaker, and construction is a little bit weaker, and some retail, particularly when you get into the lower income categories, are a little bit softer. And the employment data, which is the key, everybody knows that, but it's showing some signs of being softer. We saw that with ADP, folks, and the markets move on it. Futures flat. Now futures, S&P futures negative 13, NASDAQ down 0.6%. The VIX was a 20 level, goes out to 21.22. The Sweeney yield 3.72% in 3 basis points, and the 2-year yield, a little bit of disinversion here, a positive 2-10 spread. I haven't said that since the Red Sox last won. The real yield 1.67%. Paul, pick it up.
And talk about we're going to have the Fed presumably cutting rates and maybe substantially starting in September. What does that mean for the U.S. homeowner? I mean, the mortgage rates have been high, but not, and it comes to the point where nobody wants to sell their home because they don't want to go to a new home with a higher mortgage rate. Yeah. How do you think the housing market's going to react to what should be a declining interest rate environment?
It'll be good. Housing has had a real problem with lack of supply. And I find that everywhere.
Yep.
And we do a survey of home builders.
Of course you do.
And that picked up quite a bit.
Okay.
About 6 or 7 points on a 0 to 100 when mortgage rates came down. And then this week, it dropped 2 points.
Okay.
I don't know if it's noise. Lumber came down, so I'm trying to connect the dots. Like it might be a little bit of signal. But I don't get the feeling that 25, 50, 75, 100 basis
Right.
point drop in mortgage rates, in the funds rate is going to do a lot.
Yeah, you've got a nodding acquaintance with Bowdoin University. I should say Bowdoin College up in Maine, but the real heritage is University of Texas. You have an inherent prism into the boom economy of Texas, of Arizona, and the rest. Where do you see that 5 years from now? Where do we just continue to see this migration from California, from New York, from Illinois, and the rest?
Probably. The tax situation's better. There's also a movement, particularly of young people, like the University of Texas, to get away from a woke environment in the Northeast, frankly. And that's
Right.
probably going to keep going on.
You've kept politics out of your newsletter, I would say, more
Yes.
than anyone else. You've been really, really good about that. So I'm going to quiz you now on how you
Let's keep
write.
it out.
You don't walk, Lisa. Hold on to him. He's not walking out of the studio. Ed Heyman, how do you dance around this unique presidential election to give advice within your newsletter to your clients worldwide?
So it's a dance, and Evercore has its roots in the very democratic group of people as founders.
With Roger Altman and the rest.
Roger
right?
Altman and Ralph Schlosstein.
Yeah.
And they're terrific. And so I have to be a little careful as a Republican. You're not. It's their firm, and I don't want to get in the way. But as we all know, it's 50-50.
Yep.
And so it's too early to try and figure out what the economic
Right.
implications. Trump is giving a talk today here in New York at the Economic Club, and we'll pick a little bit up from there. I'm sure you'll be there, but
Yeah.
Big traffic, that's all I know.
Ed, we want to come back and continue this discussion with Ed Heyman. Are you a bull or a bear right now? Can you add cash to a belief in stocks right now?
my technical analyst, Rich Ross, who's been very good, he was very bearish. Now he says he's balanced. I don't know what balance means.
Right.
So I'm not particularly bullish or particularly bearish. I own a lot of stocks, own a lot of real estate. I'm nervous because things seem like they're too high, too expensive. It's not a good answer for you, Tom.
That's okay. We'll keep you on anyways. I love doing this with Ed Heyman. Everybody thinks he's like on the phone with Jay. No, he's looking at, he's in here literally looking at claims as we start. Unit labor costs came in a little bit lighter. What do you say about wage growth moderating? Nominal GDP comes down. And then what do you say about the real wage? Are we going to get a negative real wage?
The wages look like they're really slowing, and inflation looks like it's really slowing, and productivity has been really good, and I assume it got revised up a little bit because the GDP was revised up.
Yep.
I don't have the revisions yet.
Should be out.
They'll be out in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
You see
And-
how Hyman, he's,
Yeah.
he's killing me.
And so unit labor cost, before the numbers was 0.5 year on year, just an increase of 0.5. And so inflation could be down to 2% without any trouble. And by some measures, it already is down to 2%.
Yeah.
So that ship has sailed.
So is the Fed late in cutting rates, Ed, do you think? Or because a lot of folks out there saying the Fed should have been cutting rates for months now.
They're smarter than I am.
Are they too smart?
Could be too smart. I think the Fed has been doing a pretty good job, and I'm generally critical of the Fed.
Okay.
But either by luck or by skill, they have the path set now for cutting rates. Mm-hmm. And we got claims this morning.
Right in line.
So low it makes me have a headache.
Yeah.
And so they got different mandates. So I don't necessarily think they should have. We'll know better the answer to that question. I do think that they were way off on raising rates. The transitory story, I thought was
right.
pretty bad.
Is it harder now, Ed Heyman, to do the craft? He's got this little tall table he stands at with a black, one of those markers that if you get on your shirt, you throw the shirt out.
Yep.
And he's marked. Is it harder to do it now because of the mystery of technology, the mystery of productivity, the polarization of the labor force in America, the haves and the have-nots? Is it harder to do now?
I don't think so. It's always been very hard to do.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So I'm not thinking it's any harder to do than it has been in the past. It's just been always, very, very difficult. In some ways, the hardest time was in the 1970s. Mm-hmm. When you had the embargo, you had wage price controls, you had inflation going nuts, you had Nixon resigning.
Yep.
I mean, it was pretty.
What are your clients?
Pretty tough.
What are your clients asking you these days? That's maybe unique, or just what do they really want from you these days?
I think they want a steady hand, a unbiased analysis of what's going on, and so I try first to do that. You have the data on the ADP came out.
Yep.
It's 0 calories. It doesn't have any information in it whatsoever. It still moves the market, and we still look at it. Claims, on the other hand, are very important.
Right.
Yep.
I want to go to the Economic Club of New York and the heritage here, Paul, and to paint the picture, folks. In the old days, you're in a huge ballroom in New York with the elite meet to greet, and the fancy people are up on stage trying not to eat until the speech is done. That's a tradition, and you're starving, and you're looking at your food going, when do I eat? And off to the wings, the left wing and the right wing, looking out at the people, the audience, are two worthies, and then with trepidation, the speaker knows they're going to ask questions. And often, and to the great joy of the Economic Club of New York, Ed Heyman is one of those worthies. You, Martin Feldstein, and others would ask really tough questions. You do that today with former President Trump. What is your question today at 12 noon to Donald Trump?
What are you going to do with taxes? Would be the main thing I would want to know.
Explain the distinction of the Harris tax policy as
I'm
proposed
not sure what it is.
or trial ballooned versus the Trump
It's
tax
too early.
policy. Fair.
It's too early. In the news right now, there's a debate. They say that Trump wants to take the capital gains tax rate up to 39%. Maybe it's Biden wants to take it up. And Harris wants to keep it at something more like 28%. But as a conservative, I would rather keep it at 21 or 22%.
Explain how the taxation of unrealized gains. Paul Sweeney bought Nvidia early. He's got a big unrealized gain, and he's not selling that puppy. And select individuals, including the senator from Massachusetts, wants to tax those unrealized gains. How does that harm not wealthy people?
I think it harms everybody.
Why?
Because it hurts the whole capitalistic system. And so that's one of the things that I would find the most discouraging. It also is impossible to administer. So I don't think that's going to make it, but it definitely is low on my
So broadly
list
defined,
of things that'd be good.
Broadly defined, where would you like to see the U.S. tax system go over the next several years? Because obviously, as you well know, there's many different different thoughts on that. Where do you think it should go?
I'm happy with it right now.
Okay.
I think we're paying enough taxes, and so I'm not interested in seeing taxes go up. And I don't get this sense that the Harris Democratic group really are pushing for higher taxes either. There's some parts are, but I don't.
Well, how about? I would love to get your perspective on the debt and deficits. I've been hearing about it my entire life. When do
too.
I have to worry about it? Yeah, you too.
Well, but Ed, you were directly involved with this with Pete Peterson, Paul Tsongas, Sam Nunn, and the others. I mean, some would say they've been crying wolf for years. We're still here. But are we at a tip point now that those people talked about?
So I don't think so. But I think about it all the time. I had a deep conversation yesterday with Lee Cooperman, who's extremely upset about it. And I said, Lee, bond yields are so low and the dollar is so strong. Those are the two things that would make you say, this is now.
Right.
Okay.
And it's not.
Take your work into John Gollob's work at Evercore. We've got to go here, Ed Heyman, but fold your economics into the Evercore ISI equity call.
So we've been on the equity call, we've been pretty bearish on the stock market. And so that's where I am right now. Frankly, we have a strategist and a technician that have different views.
Well, that's good. That's classic. That's Ed Heyman view.
Well, no, but I'm just saying I listen to them.
Yeah.
So right now the economy's fine. Earnings are good. Inflation's coming down. Fed's going to cut.
Right.
And it's okay.
Ed Heyman, thank you so much for being with us today here into the Jobs
nice to
Report.
see you.
Tomorrow. Nice to see you as well. And Ed Heyman with Evercore ISI, dancing around the politics of the moment. We'll speak to Mr. Hyman here through the autumn as we can. First day of school, very emotional.
Oh, yeah. I know. I
I've been
understand.
doing it a long time. I mean, you know, it was 5 or 6 years ago that I took the oldest cash flow.
Yep.
First day to school. That was
Okay.
down on the edge of, you know, Cape Cod and the Bourne Bridge. And,
Right.
you know, today it was emotional. For Wendy Schiller at Brown, it's emotional because she's got to stand up at the Taubman Center with all the idiot freshmen and she has to sing Ever True to Brown.
Really?
We are ever true to Brown, for we love our college dear, and wherever we may go, we are ready with a beer.
Nice.
The people always say that you can't get out, drink the band with a scotch and rye and a whiskey dry and a BOURBON. Professor Schiller, thank you for joining us in the heat of orientation at Brown. What would you tell the freshmen right now, Wendy Schiller, about this debate September 10th in Philadelphia?
Well, I think it's the last key turning point for the election. I mean, I really do think this is a chance for Kamala
Really?
Harris.
Whoa. This is too important. You're saying
Okay.
it's that much of a tip point?
I do, because I think it's the last time the unified America, theoretically, I know we're divided, but it's the last time that a lot of eyeballs will be on both candidates at the same time, unfiltered. So since that is the last time people who love Trump, like Harris, love Harris, hate Trump, hate Harris, but they'll watch the debate. It's entertainment now, and we know that the last debate was very pivotal for this race, pushing Biden out. So this is the last time everybody will watch at the same time with them face to face, rather than each of them lobbying charges against each other on campaign trail.
What do you think would be a win for Vice President Harris in this debate? It seems like everybody knows what former President Trump is all about, but less so for Vice President Biden.
Well, a win for her would just to knock him off his game. I mean, he was on his game against Biden. He was on message. He didn't, except at the very end, maybe go off the rails a little bit. But generally speaking, he was on his game. He was disciplined. It was a message on inflation and the border. She seems to have injected a different scenario, a different set of issues into the race. Inflation matters, but now we hear signs that, you know, maybe it's cooling and it's getting a little better.
Right.
So I think, you know, she'll be able to deflect that. Will she get him to say something that is the point of no return for the independent voters who left him in 2020, but were thinking of going back to him? And that's what her goal has to be.
For this debate, which Professor Schiller, you make so important, will she speak as a liberal or will she move to the middle? Is Reagan moved to the middle on the other side?
Well, we've seen already that she's trying to move to the middle. Her tax policy sort of is trying to occupy the middle. Price controls probably was not the middle, and she hasn't talked quite as much about that, as you can see from the reaction to those kinds of policy suggestions. If she can say as little specific about policy as she can, she'll come out having a good night in that debate, because she has to make people believe that she is not the very left Democrat that they have come to associate with the Democratic Party in one night against Donald Trump.
So if it's a policy-free debate,
yes.
Paul, what should we listen for?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. But it will be entertaining. I'm sure it'll get great ratings across the various networks. What is her strategy, do you believe, between now and the election? Because boy, there's not that many days.
Well, so far, the strategy has been really to shore up and energize the Democratic Party base. And if you look at registrations across the country, the Democrats typically have advantages in that regard, and they are usually better organized on the ground. But Republicans are loyal. They get out the vote. Even if they don't love their candidate, they vote. And Trump enthusiasm still is very high. So the Democrats to even have a chance, have to really match that energy in the base. And that's been her strategy so far. And I think that's what the strategy will be going forward.
Amy Walter in the Cook Report, publishing, I believe, yesterday, the day before, was really balanced. I mean, she said this is by no means tilting to either candidate. And she spent a good part of the essay talking about the things President Trump needs to do. Is he listening to his staff?
Well, we don't know who on his staff he's listening to. And I think Amy Walter's exactly right. So when it's a jump ball election, turnout among your base or even mildly affiliated voters is absolutely essential. And what we're seeing in the polls is fascinating, that Georgia is competitive again with Harris at the head of the ticket. Arizona still seems to be leaning Trump, and Nevada, with labor as strong as it is still, jump ball or leaning a little bit Trump. And that's a warning sign for the Democrats, but North Carolina seems to be within a margin that's even closer than it was for Biden in 2020. So she has sort of mixed up the map in the sense that she's competitive in states that weren't competitive 2 months ago, but she is trailing in states the Democrats, you think, would be doing better than they are. And that is worrisome for the Democrats.
I mean, Paul, Amy, I don't want to go into this because I'm not the numbers guy like Gura, but the answer is Trump is doing a lot better now than he did in 2020. It's just Harris is doing better than Biden. But this idea Trump is failing is just flat out wrong.
Exactly. So, Wendy, I'm actually kind of thinking post November 5th. Are both parties, both campaigns preparing for what I guess, and a lot of folks are saying, will be a contested election?
Oh, I think this is going to be contested in ways that even are beyond 2020. And we hope we don't have a repeat, of course, January 6th. But the House and the Senate have to certify this election on January 6th again. And if the House is Republican, you can imagine, because the Republican Party has moved even closer to Trump than it was 4 years ago, there's a possibility they just will not certify the election. The Senate will likely certify it, whether it's Republican or Democratic controlled, but the House may not certify it. And then what do we do? It's one thing to vote against it. It's another not to certify it. So this is going to be a contested election. This is going to be fought out. And I think I don't see the Republicans conceding.
Right.
And the Senate will probably flip to the Republicans slightly. The House is still a jump ball. And the House becomes so important because they get sworn in on the 3rd of January and they will determine January 6th. Pre-orientation,
Professor Schiller, just be sure you serve Narragansett. It's a lager beer. Wendy Schiller is at Brown University giving us great perspective. Mandeep Singh now on technology. Mandeep, let's just go broad here. And I have trouble because I do a fancy exponential pro chart on Nvidia. And Nvidia has gone up so far, so fast. On my chart, long-term support is $67 a share. I don't want you to be a technical analyst, but how do you digest the hiccup of Nvidia the last couple of days?
I mean, anytime you see, such a run-up where a stock went from, in this case, $1 trillion in market cap to $3 trillion. Right. And for good reasons. I think the fundamentals have been very supportive, but people will always extrapolate things out in the future where the law of large numbers catches up. And right now what's priced in the market is the story is far to the right and up, and it will continue that way. And I think that's where the reality will come into play in terms of the top line growth slowing. But there's no
I'm
change
sorry,
in their mode.
I'm going to interrupt here. I have a crossing moving average. 2004, 20 years ago, was a quarterly chart bull signal on a small stock from Cupertino. How many times along the way did someone rationalize a law of large numbers with Apple Computer?
Yeah, but for every Apple, there are a number of other software companies that haven't played out that way. So we can always find examples where it worked.
It's called Intel.
So there are a number of other IPOs where people were extremely bullish about the story, and they didn't turn out to be, $1 trillion market cap companies. So I think, again, Nvidia has a clear mode. This is a large market. This is a super cycle. And I think there is every reason to be bullish.
Quarterly chart, Paul. Intel, I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's flat for the same chart of Apple back to 2004.
It's just amazing.
Exactly.
All right. Next week, the market moving event is I am upgrading from the iPhone 11 to the 16. Okay, I don't know which one, whatever. So Tim Cook, he's been made aware of this. Talk to it. How important is this phone to Apple, or is it just another upgrade?
Well, I mean, we all know everyone is looking forward to a bigger refresh cycle because of the Gen AI aspect and the fact that Apple is not one of the largest spenders on CapEx, unlike its Mag 7 peers, which are heavily spending on CapEx to buy these Nvidia chips. And the bet is Apple owns the distribution. So because of that, if they are able to offer a phone where you can run Gen AI chatbots and copilots, then they will participate. Right. They will be able to boost their services segment. Now, for that to happen, they need a phone that can run these Gen AI models. And I think that's what they will showcase.
See, that's what I'm doing, Lisa. I'm going to be running Gen AI models on my phone.
No, but this is the problem. We're going to run out of time here, but 5G was the second coming of man. It wasn't. Okay, Paul Sweeney's going to be using ChatGPT.
Sure.
Down at, what's the name of the liquor store?
Egan's.
Yep. Is he going to be using ChatGPT?
Everyone is already using Gen AI, but the Gen AI is being used from the cloud. Apple's bet is you are going to use Gen AI on your phone so that it's personalized to your data as opposed to running things on the cloud. That's a big bet.
That's a big bet. I'm all in on that. You see that, Lisa?
Well, wait a minute. Don't get up. What's your bet on this? Is Apple going to win on this?
I think Apple has every reason to do well just because they own the distribution. I mean, you are locked into Apple ecosystem. It's so hard to move out of it because all your data is across Apple devices.
I dropped Afterthought off yesterday at school. 110% of the returning students had the stupid white things in their ear.
Yeah. Yep.
You're like, oh my God, you're back at school. Nobody's listening.
Nope.
They're all like listening to their tunes, hanging out.
It's a new world.
Oh, thank you, Ari. AirPods. That's what's under the couch.
Yep, there you go.
Mandeep Singh on short notice. Thank you so much for joining us. Greatly appreciate it. Your daily look at the front pages around the world. Lisa, are you doing back to school?
No, we did it like last week.
Kids are too old.
Yeah.
Right?
There's no back to school.
Yeah. Mom, you don't have to
go
come.
shopping. That's all she wants. Her clothes.
Exactly.
Go shopping.
Back to shopping.
Get me some clothes. That's what she wants. Overseas trips. We've been talking about tourism, right? Being so expensive so much, right? Well, now it could get a little bit more expensive because a lot of destinations are charging new or even higher tourist taxes. The idea is not new, but they're imposing new ones. So, for example, Iceland, big, hot, popular tourist destination.
Yeah.
This year, they reinstated their tourist tax that was suspended, so the rate of hotel stays doubled that they usually charge. For the first time, they're doing this tax for cruise ships that are stopping at ports. If you want to go to Bali, that's going to cost you more because they set a tourist tax of $9.70. That's going to be start to implement. Places like Barcelona, Venice, New Zealand, Amsterdam, Britain. So they're all kind of increasing their tourist taxes to make it a little bit more expensive when you go visit.
Well, it's because they raised them. I mean, there are taxes, and they're just nobody cares. They're like a rounding error, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because in Barcelona you had all those protests about people not wanting the tourists there. So
yes, because I mean, for a while, the last couple of years, all the young people I know all went to Barcelona, and I don't know why.
Oh, it's a cool place. Yeah,
and it's always been a cool place.
Why is on my list.
Why is it not Paris? Why isn't everybody's going to Barcelona? I don't get it.
It's like, they don't want me there.
All right.
There's no bow ties in
There's no bow ties in Barcelona.
Somebody said, why don't I have a bow tie today? And I don't have a bow tie today because I left it on Mrs. Keene's desk because she got me a new bow tie and I forgot to get it.
You forgot
I went down in flames.
Not good.
She called the divorce lawyer. I don't know. Next.
But you got the Red Sox jacket, so that makes up for it.
Yeah. We won't talk about that.
Best colleges, speaking of, families, kids, best colleges in the U.S. for 2025. Wall Street Journal came out with their list. Oh. A lot of parents kind of look to this. They rank it in measures of how well each college sets graduates up for financial success, which is what you want. So Princeton took the first place spot, second year in a row, high graduation rate, great alumni network. That's what they said. Babson College came in second for its real college. Yeah, real world experience. And Stanford, that came in third. But the thing is, a lot of them, about half of the colleges in the top 50 are new because they started to survey a little bit more of students, recent graduates to get their insight into it. So some new schools like Brigham Young University in Utah, that came in first as most recommended by students. And you had Dalton State College in Georgia, second, Rose Coleman Institute of Technology in Indiana, that came in third. So
there's been a lot of criticism about it. And, to see Babson, Good Morning Wellesley on 92.9 FM. But to see Babson in there sandwiched by Princeton and Stanford, I guess
pretty solid.
That's pretty good.
At Babson admissions today, they're having that's a good day.
I saw in one, University of Delaware comes in at 26. I've always been impressed by the University of Delaware.
Oh, it's a cool
Taking
school.
my kids down there to take a look at it.
They have a statue of Liz Ann Saunders.
They do.
It's amazing.
Guess who's number 28? Texas A&M University.
It is. College Station, Texas. Although they're number 20, they're like on the negative 20 NCAA football list. Whatever happened.
I don't know.
You go
Santa
down,
Clara University, 38.
You do join the Corps of Cadets at A&M. Next, what do you got?
Larry the cat could be causing some issues, over at 10 Downing Street. Been there since 2011. He's going to get rid of some of the rats and stuff. He's 17 years old already.
Wow.
Outlasted 5 prime ministers, but now you have new British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, coming in. And he has a few cats. There's Jojo, a male ginger cat, who has not met Larry. He's bought a new kitten too, a Siberian kitten. He wanted a German Shepherd, didn't work out. He went for the cats. But everybody's wondering, and now people are starting to talk, how are these cats going to adjust to Larry? Or how is Larry going to do it? Because Larry's lashed out at a few past cats before from other prime ministers.
They have to do this correctly. I mean,
so that's what the article is about. It's in the journal. They have these certain ways how they can do it and what they have to do to kind of go about it. So they have experts talking about it. But I never really thought about that much. But Larry could be a troublemaker.
They get old.
Larry doesn't want to deal with other things. He's very territorial.
What else we got?
And so what else we got? Bankrate has this new survey. It shows that inflation, credit card debt, it could be pushing consumers to spend less for their holiday shopping this year. So not sure if you got the Christmas list from whoever is on your list, but people want to spend less. So 33% expect to spend less.
Every year when the Red Sox give up, we decide Christmas is going to be terrible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's September.
But people have been shopping, it says, since August. So people already started.
For Christmas.
For Christmas.
No.
I'm behind the 8 ball. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
Okay. Doug emails in. Thank you, Doug. He says, check the tuition at BYU.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons it's successful.
Awesome. Good for
Are you done, or you got one more?
That is it.
Lisa Mateo, thank you so much. Lisa Mateo with our newspapers out on YouTube. This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast, bringing you the best in economics, finance, investment, and international relations. You can also watch the show live on YouTube. Visit the Bloomberg Podcast channel on YouTube to see the show weekday mornings from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern from our global headquarters in New York City. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen, and always on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Terminal, and the Bloomberg Business app.